Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Richard Moglen. Welcome to this week's Stock Market Outlook video. As always, we'll talk through the action of the leading stocks in the market. Then we'll move on to the market indexes, sentiment, the IBD Big Picture article, and also the GMI Signal from wishoneball.com. So diving in, let's start with the potential true market leaders. And let me move myself really quickly just so you can kind of see all the different stocks on this list. So overall, good performance from the market leaders this week. You can see a lot of them are hitting both price and relative strength new all-time highs. You have some stochastic cross signals down here showing up. And also you don't have many below the 21 EMA or below the 50 SMA, except for TTD, which is breaking down a little bit, but is showing some signs of potentially reclaiming this key moving average. But anyway, our best performer this week was FFTY, which has been on a monster run since the bounce off the 50 SMA. And the ideal buy point for this really would have been the 3-bar break on large volume. And that was on the 30th of December. This is a very strong move, and I would expect it to continue, but definitely there will be pullback, short-term shelves, and other opportunities to get in if you don't already have a position. Moving on, we've got Tesla, which also advanced over 20%. It advanced 22% from the open to the close, and it's starting to accelerate really to the upside with some gap ups on volume, and it is all the way above the upper Bollinger Band at this point. So a very strong trend, probably a little bit short-term extended here, but it is trending beautifully above those key moving averages with the RS line confirming as well. XP as well as Zillow and also Redfin also moved up well this past week. And XP had a 3-bar break on this Thursday, as well as a 2-2 reversal here. So this would have been kind of the best bar to get in this past week. But overall, great volume coming in here on this Friday. And it's back above all those key moving averages. Moving on, we've got Roku, which has been on an incredible run this year. And you can see gapped up twice this past week, is now all the way above the upper Bollinger Band. But you've got nice volume coming in, 3-bar break on this Wednesday off the 21 EMA. This would have been a very good entry. Fiverr also advanced strongly this past week, up 16%, and had a 3-bar break on this Tuesday right here, then an inside day, and then a continued move up to end the week strongly. And it did pull back somewhat this past Friday, back below the upper Bollinger Band, but did close at all-time highs. EMPH, you can see, had nice volume coming in here on this gap up, but overall did kind of have a bit of a 2-2 reversal here on this Friday, although it was on lower volume, and it was a little bit kind of short-term extended above the Bollinger Band. So I would expect it to pull back potentially to this high right here, and then continue its strong run, trending above all these key moving averages with the RS line near all-time highs as well. NEO continued its move up and acted really well this Thursday and Friday, finishing at all-time highs above this high right here on great volume. And Ray from Trendline and I just posted a video analyzing this entire run. So if you want to learn more about how to catch these stocks a little bit earlier at this first breakout here, definitely check that out. I promise you will improve your technical analysis abilities if you go ahead and watch that video all the way through. Next up, we've got CELH, and let me go ahead and hide these drawings here. But overall continues to trend above all those key moving averages. It's held this gap up very well. Nice volume coming in right here, and great closing ranges on Thursday and Friday as it trends above all those key moving averages with the RS line increasing as well. GRWG also is trending above all those key moving averages. A nice move up on this Wednesday and a 2-2 reversal here on this Friday, and it was a little bit short-term extended above that upper Bollinger Band. Zillow, you can see, also moved up off the 21 EMA this past week, and I added back my full position, but overall not the greatest close on Friday, although it was a new all-time high close, but I would expect it to maybe consolidate a little bit here, and then that would be very constructive until it continues its uptrend above all those key moving averages. Pins, you can see, found support at the 50 SMA twice this past week on this Monday where I started my position, and also I added to it on this day here. You can see a nice reversal off the 50 SMA and then a beautiful action on this Thursday, a 3-bar break, breaking above these highs right here. And then once again, nice upside reversal action on this Friday. SQ as well bounced off the 21 EMA this past week and is back to trending above all those key moving averages with the RS line right near all-time highs. Upwork as well started to move up again this past week, reclaiming that key 21 EMA after pulling back on lower volume, and it's back above all those key moving averages with the RS line increasing as well. CrowdStrike as well moved up this past week, and I added back to a full position in this stock, and overall nice move on this day, good closing range, and then a continued move up, although it's not quite closing at all-time highs just yet. And one thing I am watching for this stock is that there is some kind of high volume days on these pullbacks, and this bounce here off the 21 EMA area wasn't really on high volume. So I'm keeping that in mind, but so far the price action is pretty strong. Moving on to Twilio, we've got a nice 3-bar break on this Thursday. It's back above all those key moving averages. Very strong move on this day right here, and a little bit of a hesitation candle here on higher volume, so keep that in mind. But overall, I really like the look of this candle here, breaking through these key moving averages. Next up, we've got PLTR, which also kind of bounced this past week and is continuing to form out this base here. And you had a 3-bar break and a reclaim of the 21 EMA on this Thursday, and then a continued move up but fade on this Friday. Moving on, we've got PGNY, which is trending nicely above all those key moving averages and is holding pretty closely that 10 SMA here. Next up, we've got SE, which bounced off the 50 SMA a few weeks ago and continued its move up this past week. Shopify also bounced this week, probably near the 10-week area. Yep, there you go. You've got the low right near the 10-week and continues to move up. A 3-bar break on this Thursday, and then nice upside reversal action on this Friday after it faded and then recovered all the way and closed near its highs. Snap also bounced off the 21 EMA area, and you can see nice action here. And overall looks like it's going to challenge these all-time highs relatively soon. Next up, we've got Peloton, and overall this bounced nicely right at the 21 EMA and also this kind of prior pivot area. And I added back to my full position on this day right here as it took out this high, and then added again as it took out this high right here. Moving on, we've got Corsair, and it bounced nicely off the 50 SMA as it forms out this base. And this is definitely one to watch as it forms out this consolidation area after forming a higher low here, and it has a very strong prior uptrend. Moving on, we've got AMD, which had a nice move up on this Thursday, but then not a really definitive move here. It did pull back, but you did have a nice finish off the lows. PDD continues to trend nicely above all those key moving averages with the RS line near all-time highs. And you had a nice breakout on this Tuesday and a nice follow-on day on this Wednesday right here. Net as well bounced off the 50 SMA right here, and I added back to a full position as it bounced and added even more as it moved through this low. And I love the action on this day right here, reclaiming all these key moving averages as well as being a 3-bar break. And then decent action with the 21 EMA acting as support on this Friday. Melly had a nice move on this Friday on good volume, and overall was up 1.66% on the week. MVCR continues to build out the shelf here after reclaiming all these key moving averages on this past Friday. Zscaler also bounced this past week, finishing above all those key moving averages. TTD is back below the 50 SMA here, and I do want to see it reclaim this level relatively soon. And this day right here was definitely a bit of a character change, slicing below the 10 and 21 EMAs, and then also finishing right near the low of the day on the highest volume since the start of this earnings gap up move. So I want to see it hold this level definitely, and also reclaim the 50 SMA as soon as possible. Etsy also bounced a little bit this past week and reclaimed the 21 EMA. Fetch as well continues to build out a short-term shelf here above the 21 EMA, and I really like the action on these days right here. A nice upside reversal showing institutional support off the lows. And overall break of this key moving average would definitely be a character change, but look for an undercut and reclaim of this level right here. And lastly, we've got apps, which also reclaimed that key 21 EMA this past week, and overall is still trending above the 50 SMA. So that is a run through of the potential true market leaders and how they are acting. So moving on, let's go to the indexes and start the QQQ on a daily time frame. And most definitely, we did not have a good start to 2021. We had a distribution day on this Monday, which closed below these lows right here. And we did undercut and reclaim the 21 EMA and finish well off the lows, but I was ready to be very defensive if there was continued selling. But we got a nice inside day with a good closing range on this Tuesday, although it was on lower volume than this previous day. And then on Wednesday, where a lot of craziness happened, you had a gap down, a nice recovery all the way to up here. But then, of course, there were the protests and riots in the Capitol, and that pushed everything down and closed below the 21 EMA. However, a lot of growth stocks were still acting pretty well on this day, and I was following my rules, and I didn't sell out just because of the news. A lot of the times, the action of the stocks will tell you more than what's happening on CNN or Fox or whatever news service you use. And this Thursday really reaffirmed that the bull market was strong, and we had a nice day right here, a gap up and a move up 2.42%, and then a nice continued move up on this Friday. One thing I am watching is if we go over here to this drawing, you've got a break of the upper Bollinger Band here, as well as this kind of trend line here. And obviously trend lines are a bit subjective here, but keep that in mind that we are potentially a little bit short-term extended. And moving on to the weekly chart, you can see overall on the week, we are up 1.69% with a nice weekly closing range of 97.5% and a daily closing range on Friday of 91.6%. And the expectation from this bar is sideways or higher, and we are in a stage 2 uptrend at this time. Moving on to the SPY, you can see we had similar action here, up 1.97% with a nice weekly closing range of 98.6%, a daily closing range on Friday of 94.8%, and the expectation from this bar is sideways or higher, and we are in a stage 2 uptrend. Moving on to the IWM, the Russell 2000, we had a nice week as well of 5.95% with a weekly closing range of 89.1% and a daily closing range on Friday of 59.9%, and the expectation from this bar is sideways or higher, and we are in a stage 2 uptrend. Moving on to GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, overall it was up 38.81% with a good weekly closing range of 73.1% and a daily closing range on Friday of only 1.4%. And overall, the expectation from this bar right here is sideways or higher, and we are in a stage 2 uptrend. Next up, we've got Ethereum, which was definitely weaker than Bitcoin, and overall we were down 11.23% with a weekly closing range of 41.1% and a daily closing range of 27% on this past Friday. Moving on to the Dow Jones, overall it was up 1.72% with a nice weekly closing range of 92.9% and a daily closing range on Friday of 88.7%. And the expectation from this bar is sideways or higher, and we are in a stage 2 uptrend. Next up, we've got the FFTY, the Innovator IBD 50 ETF, and overall it was up 4.58% this past week with a nice week closing range of 83.4% and a daily closing range on Friday of 41.8%. And if we go quickly to a daily chart on this, overall we have a nice breakout into new all-time highs, but we do have a little bit of a hesitation bar on this Friday. And overall, the FFTY is in a strong stage 2 uptrend. Moving on to GLD, it was down 2.81% this past week with a poor weekly closing range of only 15.9% and a daily closing range on Friday of 33.8%. At this point, it is in a stage 1. And moving on to the VIX, overall it was down 5.23%, which is a good sign, but I do want to see it take out these lows right here. And finally, we've got the XLF, the financials. Overall, they were up 4.88% this past week with a nice weekly closing range of 86% and a daily closing range on Friday of 69.5%. And they are in a stage 2 uptrend, and the expectation from this bar is sideways or higher. So overall, nice moves from the major indexes. You have good reversal action off the 10 weeks for a lot of them here. And overall, the expectation pretty much is higher based off this past week. So moving on to my focus list from this past week, we've got UPST with the largest gain at 30.71%. Fate was also up 27%, AEIS 13%, Redfin and GRWG at 11%, and Zillow was also above 10%. And out of the 12 stocks, we only had 2 that were red on the week, and overall very strong performance given the market conditions. So going through the charts, you can see that UPST had a 3-bar break on this day and also a 2-2 reversal. And this would have been the ideal point to get in. And overall, very strong action breaking out of its IPO base and then finding support there on this past Friday. Fate also had a nice move and a 3-bar break on this Wednesday right here. A very strong closing range here on higher volume, and then a nice tight day on this past Friday. AEIS had a nice move this past Friday on high volume, great closing ranges here, and good volume coming in as well. Redfin bounced off the 21 EMA. GRWG also bounced off that key moving average on this Monday and Tuesday. A nice inside day and up on this day, the breakout above this short-term pivot. Zillow also bounced off the 21 EMA, breaking above this high, and also had a 3-bar break on this Tuesday. Penn also bounced this past week with a nice, pretty much bullish outside day on this Tuesday, and then it's consolidating above that key 21 EMA. Pins we already covered bounced off the 50 SMA twice this past week. Chegg started to move up and broke out this past Friday above the cup and handle pattern. And the ideal entry for this was really this right here, as it had a nice bounce off the 21 EMA. AMD, we already talked about, moved up, but then kind of faded a little bit on this past Friday. ALTM failed 2 breakouts on this Tuesday and Friday, and I didn't realize when I put this on the list, but this is very thinly traded, so this definitely is a little bit riskier. And lastly, we've got ONEM, which continues to build out this handle above the 21 EMA, and it looks very, very constructive. And TDOC, which I actually bought this past week, is in the same space and is acting very, very strong. So keep an eye on this stock. So overall, very good action from my watch list. And make sure you guys tune in tomorrow when I'll be posting my next list of ideas. So moving on to sentiment, you can see that this week, the sentiment survey is pretty much unchanged, but it is a little bit too bullish for my liking. The NAAIM exposure index is back up to 94.51, an increase over the past week. So that is one negative. So keep that in mind. However, you can see a decrease in the bulls versus bear poll, which is a good sign, although it's not back below 60 here. And it's still quite elevated. And lastly, we've got the put call ratio, which is moving in the right direction, but still definitely is a little bit too low for my liking. So overall sentiment is still a little bit on the overheated side. But like I've said before, the price action of my stocks, the market leaders, and the market indexes is a lot more important for me in terms of gauging the market health. So with that said, let's move on to the IBD Big Picture article. And overall, their title is Blue Chip Stocks and NASDAQ Close a Stunning First Week of 2021. And reading through, they do discuss quickly the riots at the Capitol, the strong action of the NASDAQ, IWM, and S&P 500. And they also move on to talk about some blue chip stocks that are worth watching as potential turnaround stories like Caterpillar, EMN, ETN, and DD. Moving on, they discuss how the market internals are strong with a whole bunch of new 52-week all-time highs, and also the bullish sentiment overall. And finally, their current outlook is a confirmed uptrend with 4 distribution days on the S&P 500 and 3 on the NASDAQ. Finally, let's move on to the GMI Signal from richardlmoglen.com. And overall, it is still green since November 5th. And we have a strong 6 out of 6 GMI score on this past Friday. So overall, taking everything into account, my current view is still a confirmed uptrend. And I'll be looking to add to my current positions and potential new opportunities if they present good, low risk, high reward entry setups. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you guys in future videos.